I'm going to propose a statement to you, most of them wild or outlandish, and you gentlemen are going to have 3 options. It's either going to be, that's true, that might be true, or that's ridiculous. Any questions before we dive in, the boys?
No questions for me.
Okay, fantastic. Just making sure. Let us begin, and we're going to ruffle some feathers here, maybe turkey feathers in American Thanksgiving spirits. First up, if John Herdman was still the coach of the Canadian men's national team, Canada would not have lost to Jamaica. Is that true? Might that be true? Or is that ridiculous, Oliver Platt?
Might be true. I think sometimes as a coach in CONCACAF, you get a shock to the system like this one, and Herdman had one of his own in 2019 against Haiti, and you learn from it, and it doesn't happen again in a lot of cases, and it didn't really happen to Herdman again. Excuse me. You look at the octagonal when they went up against all kinds of CONCACAF opposition, all kinds of venues and challenges, and when Canada took a lead in those games, they never failed to win. So that would suggest that he somewhat learned that lesson. Obviously, the twist to that is that Mauro Biello was there with him that entire time, and so has those experiences as well. But I don't know, maybe something a little bit different about being the head coach, about understanding, going into halftime. We kind of talked about it in the shows we did after the game, just understanding that tie was not nearly as safe as the team seemed to think it was, or play like it was. The ability to make those in-game tactical adjustments in the second half when you see the way the game is going. Maybe someone with a bit more experience in that head coaching position could have impacted that. Maybe they couldn't, and this one's just on the players, and Biello was doing and saying all the right things on the touchline, and it just didn't get across for whatever reason. So I have to go that might be true, but could go either way.
Jordan?
You got to choose, right? That's the name of the game. We can't be on the fence with anything. I think
you can just say might be true.
Yeah, but
it is one of the 3 options.
I'm going to answer that.
I'm not calling it a cop out, but I'm saying I could go might be true for any of these questions, right? I'm going to go with that's ridiculous, because I personally feel like this game was already won. I think it came up to the players in terms of when you're on the pitch, what you to do. I said it a little bit before on OST. You could talk about managers and players that they play. I think Biello towards the end obviously suffered with not having Laird or Buchanan on the pitch because you need to go and chase a goal. But I'm just thinking about from the 45th minute up until about the 70th. I think that was in the control of the players to just be a bit more pragmatic, take care of the ball, take care of the moment. I don't think these are all professional players. These are all guys that grew up playing the game. I don't think that was a moment that, of course, Biello could have helped, but I think it's still on the players to kind of take care of that moment and just be a bit smarter, a bit more clever about. And I know they looked at themselves in the mirror when they came in the locker room where they had the game and they let it slip through their fingers. I don't think that Herdman would have done much different than Biello did.
Okay, Jordan, we know that you have been on the Reggae Boys and Girls train for some time now, and rightfully so.
Sure.
You've been trying to alert everyone how good these teams are. So while you might feel vindicated, let's see if you will put your money where your mouth truly is here when I ask you this. On paper, Canada's best 11 is worse than Jamaica's. That's true, that might be true, or that's ridiculous.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Ooh.
Very ridiculous. Yes, it is. So we're talking about Jamaica's men's. I know, I get it. They just spanked us, and I have to hear it from a whole side of my family. I've gotten texts from England already, like everyone, and it's just that I put my head down. So for the Canadian fans, I'm always rooting for Canada, and I personally think that Canada have the talent, far more than Jamaica do. But Jamaica have some stars up front, yeah, but I don't think they have a better squad through and through than Canada does. So I'll say. I'm believing I'm answering the question right. No, you said
yes. I might have asked it in the wrong order. You're saying Canada's better.
I'm saying Canada is better to clarify
on paper.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Ollie. Here's where I'm thinking. Andre Blake. I think a lot of Canadians would have liked to have had him in nets. And at full strength, everyone healthy. There's a lot of Premier League talent. And if you're going to look for issues at the back, that rings a bell. So is Canada's best 11 worse than Jamaica's best 11?
Can I shock you guys? I'm going to say that might be true. It's another tough one. I've been quite low on Jamaica, I think, compared to some of the other guys. But when you look at it purely on paper, like, yeah, Blake's the best goalkeeper of either two teams. Ethan Pinnock is the at least in terms of the level he plays at for his club, is the best defender. He wasn't necessarily always great in this tie. And then that front group of Bailey, Gray, Reeds, Antonio, Nicholson, like there's a lot of talent there. So I'm going to say it might be true. I personally don't think it is. And I think we still have to say for 3 out of 4 halves in that game, Canada outplayed Jamaica. And then you can say, maybe this isn't giving Jamaica enough credit, but for me, in the second half of that second leg, Canada were their own worst enemies more than anything else. So I still think it's Canada by a little bit, but I'm going to put it in the might be true category if we're just talking purely on paper.
Jordan Wilson, I just brought up Milan Borjan. My next question is this. Milan Borjan should never start for the Canadian men's national team again. That's true, that might be true, or that's ridiculous.
Wow, we're going
do
3
it.
for 3.
Do
okay,
it.
I'm going to say that is ridiculous based on how many games are going to be played. I personally think, and this is no secret or shock to anyone, that you have to try out a Capo or a Sinclair. Like, you have to. I think it's inevitable. One, I think they're competent enough. 2, I just think they need the opportunity. Look at Dane Sinclair in Gold Cup. Great with his feet. Lanky boy. I think he could do a run or a job playing in between the sticks. We've seen Capo as well for MLS, but also for Canada. He's a substantial keeper as well. I think naturally, for me, it's not about age, right? I think keepers have a little bit of a bubble as well because they could just play longer. You can play till like 40. Like your impact is a bit different than a midfielder, a striker, a defender. But yeah, I think Biello, whoever's coming in, needs to look at having a 2-man or a 3-man race. I don't think it needs to be Milan every single time starting. And you're looking at big matches where you want to go with players that you know. There have been big matches that they've played in. Canada just played in 2. And Milan had goals scored on them and maybe could have been better in moments. So there are things to be questioned. I have no problem with whoever's taking the team starting another keeper. But at a point, you should also start Milan as well.
Oliver Platt.
Ridiculous. I agree with Jordan. I think it's fair to be critical of some of Boyan's recent performances. I think it's fair to argue the case for Capo or Sinclair or whoever you prefer to be the starting goalkeeper. But this guy has 80 caps for Canada. He was outstanding during World Cup qualifying. He's had a long career for the national team. We don't need to do the thing of, he should never play for Canada again. I think a player who's given that much to the national team deserves a little bit better than that. So I'm going to say ridiculous on that one.
Yeah, again, it's never ever again suggest that he's banished and there would be no thank you Milan type of match, which is a little bit silly, but I would be very happy to not see him play in 2024. That's just my bold stance for the day. Next question for you, Oliver Platt. We love a rumor mill at One Soccer. We love a rumor mill in sports as fans and media. And the biggest one seems to be with Alphonso Davies that he is headed to the freshly renovated $1 billion euro Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. This time next year, Alphonso Davies will be wearing a Real Madrid kit. That's true, that might be true, or that's ridiculous.
It's the first that's true of the show.
Oh,
like just
welcome to the game.
How can you say no? Real Madrid, Bellingham, Vinicius, like all of these guys, this team they're building. It seems to have some real substance that Real Madrid are interested. They're not coming out, or not even putting out kind of briefings denying it. And there's noises coming out of Davies' camp, with the comments that are being made by his agent that would be interesting to him. So I think if Madrid want him and go for him, they'll get him. So I'm going to say that's true.
And Jordo, as we know, Alphonso Davies' camp famously does not like to make noise. So this shouldn't surprise anyone. Where do you land here?
I'm making a slight different category and saying that is the truth. It is happening. I said January, February, he will sign to move over in the summer because that 6-month window when it's left on your contract is going to be looking at, okay, this is the time. He's going, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, he is going to be playing for the Blancos or whatever you call the Hala Madrid. He is going. He is gone for sure.
Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance to several CPLers that may not forgive us in time for next season, but our next one requires a video. If you can, producer Holly.
I can't apologize. This is something.
I'm not going to apologize.
Hey,
if you missed this, Volkswagen, of course, one of the fantastic sponsors of the Canadian Premier League, had a "see you soon" or "we will remember you" type of video. We're just going to let this roll, much to Oliver Bass's
Loop it.
chagrin. They said, for a fact, they said, Ollie, you just won Players Player of the Year and MVP. You are going to be in this ad. He is trying his best. I can't say that I do much better. Adonijah Reed absolutely crushes this. Rocco Romeo plays to his strengths by going arms up in the air. And Farron's attempting to get on beat, but I don't think he ever did it. The question, Jordan Wilson, this is the most uncomfortable Ollie Bassett has ever looked on a soccer pitch. That's true. That might be true, or that's ridiculous.
That is so true. It's the truest thing I've ever heard.
Ollie.
This is a guy who slices and dices. He's skipped by me a few times as well with his 145 pounds. He's just shifty. There was no rhythm, no shifting going on there. Poor guy. I just wanted to go and give him a few shots of tequila and let him loosen up. He looks very uncomfortable. But who I will say moved the best, Carducci looked like he was already like 2 a.m.
You got the fist roll? I don't know what that's called, but he did a great job. Can you say it again, Producer Holly? Well, we
Roll
get
it again.
If you're looking at Carducci, the goalkeeper right there in orange, he is looking like this is a grand old time. He's like, this is where I want to be. Look at him. Yeah, buddy. Go on, son. Oh, this is great.
Zach Fernandez, star of the show as well. Ollie, do you agree the most uncomfortable your namesake has ever looked?
That's true. He's not doing anything for the reputation of English guys dancing. Sorry, Ollie. Can we one more time, please? Just keep rolling it. Like we can't see this enough. I have a few thoughts on this. I think Adonijah is the most natural looking. Like it's kind of so effortless for him. Zach Fernandez, in terms of effort and commitment, is undoubtedly number one for me. No one gets the hips moving like he does right there. And I also have some sympathy for Rocco as someone of similar height. Like looking cool in these situations is very, very difficult. And I think he makes a decent stab at it. You're right, Adam. Arms in the air is playing to his strengths. And that's an admirable effort. So well done all around.
I just want to say before we move on, for the record, don't let Canada Soccer see that video. Otherwise, Zach Fernandez might get suspended a la Kunle Dadaluk, but that's neither here nor there. Moving on to our next question. The next time the Canadian men's national team plays in Ontario, which seems like it will likely be fairly soon, it should not be at BMO Field. It should be at TD Place in Ottawa, Jordan Wilson. That's true. That might be true, or that's ridiculous.
That might be true. I think in the nation's capital, a nice venue. I mean, playing on turf is probably one of the only low lights you can really look at that venue, but I could see it happening. I know when the women played there, when they came back from winning gold, it was a nice environment. And again, nation's capital, I think that's charming in many respects, but it could be true.
Oliver Platt.
So something in between that might be true, and that's ridiculous that I can have.
No,
you have to choose one.
I gave you three. That's one more than two.
I'll go ridiculous. Like nothing against Ottawa, nothing against TD Place, and I don't have a problem in general with like the national teams, and the women have probably done it more than the men recently of kind of touring around the country and stopping in different places. That's fine. I just think the whole debate around do they play at BMO Field too much is stupid. It's like there's reasons they play there. It's the best pitch in the country. It's the right kind of size of stadium right now in terms of the crowds they get. In terms of travel, and I know this would be the case with Ottawa as well, but travel to Toronto is easier from Europe, from the Caribbean, wherever you're coming from. It's shorter trips. There are multiple reasons that the team plays in Toronto when they play competitive games, big games, and I think they're logical. So as much as I would have no problem, obviously, seeing them play Vancouver, Montreal, all around the country, and maybe there's opportunities to do that. I think there's a reason that the biggest games have been at BMO Field, and I think it's justified.
Two things. Let me show you how this game works. That is true. They should absolutely play at TD Place. The flight is like 15 more minutes to just not descend into Toronto. So I'm not accepting that for one of the reasons. Two, they're looking way too complacent at BMO Field. Shake it up and also give the rest of the country some love. The only exception in Ollie, if you were asking if you could say that they play at New Mosaic Stadium in Saskatchewan, the answer would have been yes, I will allow it. We need a yearly Azteca. Come on, lean into it. What a night. Let's have some more of those.
You can't play in Saskatchewan.
Why can't you play in Saskatchewan?
Because the lines are the football lines are stitched into the
Well,
pitch.
then let's unstitch them.
That's part of the issue.
Let's put in a grass pitch.
Yeah.
Let's just do whatever it takes.
That easily, I don't think.
We'll have a Tottenham Hotspur $1 billion stadium type of thing.
It's a beautiful stadium.
It's
I agree.
new mosaic, and they'll play there for the next snow match. This one is going to be one that might get some international viewers. Sometimes these clips get picked up, and I don't know how they do, but let's see if we can get it in the aggregate machine. Oliver Platt. Mexico is no longer a dominant team in CONCACAF. You know your three choices.
That's true. They lack some of the real difference makers right now. I think they've had in previous years. Maybe there's the players with the potential to be that, but they haven't been that of late. Not a lot of clarity seemingly in what direction they're going in terms of head coach, problems with Liga MX. Like you go to Estadio Azteca, it's not the same as it has been in the past in terms of intimidation, in terms of the advantage they get there. And you kind of saw that against Honduras, even though they got through that tie. There's years past where Mexico would have just blown them away and overcome that deficit in a much more easier fashion, I think, than they did in the end. So true.
Jordan Wilson.
It is true. Mexico have been perennial contenders in the past. When you're looking at CONCACAF in the region, there are two countries that stick out. That is USA and Mexico, just based on history and what they've won. And I think bigger than that, I just don't think that teams fear Mexico like they once did. I don't think they fear going there. I don't think they fear them absolutely on the road or when Mexico's away from home. So yeah, there's some loopholes and craters within this team that teams feel like they could exploit. So I don't think they're the top big dogs anymore. But it's football, right? I think this is still a country of like 130 million people or something like that. Like it's around that area. Like it's a football country. That's their number one sport. That's their pride and joy. They can get back to it with, I would say, like a good few windows, right? Or a good window. They could just turn things around in terms of the way that they're playing. But when you're looking at what Ali said, there are some players that they've always had for Mexico that they don't really have right now to pull from and to really affect games. So it's a dry moment. I will definitely say that.
All right, our last that's true, that might be true, or that's ridiculous is this. And I will go back to Jordan Wilson for the first word. Julia Grosso is already too good for Serie A with Juve. That's true, that might be true, or that's ridiculous.
I'm going to say that's ridiculous because I think, and maybe this is not about Grosso, this is more just about how people view footy sometimes. And you could have a good season, a good start of a season, a good whatever. I'll say 12 to 18 months and people are like, yeah, you got to move on. But sometimes you have to be good for a longer period of time and own a league to be like, okay, this is time to move on. Everyone loves the quick fix. You kill it for 6 months, you score a bunch of goals or you're playing your best football. You're like, yeah, you're killing it. You should go. I think you should kill it for a longer period of time, make it your own, and then you could have those type of talks.
Oliver Platt.
I'm going to say that's true. I think by the end of this season, I'm good with Julia Grosso moving on to a bigger league. She was the midfielder of the year in Serie A in her first full season in the league. This is her second full year. Obviously, had part of a year as well. I totally agree with the point Jordan's making, but I think by the end of this season, that will be enough time, and she'll have kind of made her case to go higher.
So long as the next move does not see her stuck on the bench, because that has been a problem with our national team players in the past. That final question is the end of a game show that I really enjoy. The segment that's true, that might be true, or that's ridiculous, from the Mismatch podcast with the Ringer. Shout out Chris Vernon and Kevin O'Connor.